Okay, so it's 12:31, so I think we can get started. Thank you everyone for attending this afternoon to MIT FCU's solar loan webinar. Right now, the credit union is offering solar loans to members who live in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And today we have presenters from our partners at Energy Tree, Matt Gschwend and Nate Howard. And they're going to walk us through the process of what it's like to get a solar loan and their solar loan program. At the end of this, we'll take some questions that folks might have. So if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A. And with that, I'm going to hand that over to Matt and Nate.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Today, as been stated, we will be reviewing the MIT Federal Credit Union's Own My Solar program. As we stated as well, this is mainly aimed at members from Massachusetts and New Hampshire, but we're also willing and able to help users outside of those states. If you are interested in solar, we are happy to give advice. We just don't necessarily have an installer network in other states. So it would somewhat be, we would be basically over your shoulder helping out. So let's go. So just to give a little background on Energy Tree and Own My Solar. Own My Solar is the product, Energy Tree is the company. We recently partnered with MIT Federal Credit Union to help its members go solar. And we are a developer, installer, and consultant in New England. We started this process back in around 2015, and we worked with various credit unions throughout the state in the New England area. The Own My Solar platform itself, the main goal is to help homeowners go solar and to make the process as easy as possible. Many people that have started to explore solar, and I would assume that some people on this webinar are in that process. You know, you reach out to an installer, they give you a quote, they tell you about why their company is the best, what equipment they would use, et cetera. And then you're comparing a bunch of different installers, and it's hard to know who to trust, what to do. The point of Own My Solar is to bring all those parties to one place, make it a competitive marketplace where everything is standardized and it's easier to compare. So we connect three main parties involved in the solar process, being the homeowner yourself, the installer that will be putting it on your roof, and your lending institution, MIT Federal Credit Union. Many people are becoming more and more interested in going solar as they've seen their electricity bills skyrocket this winter. That's probably the main reason that people are interested in solar. You can see in this table on the bottom right of the slide that over the past 6-7 years, electricity prices have more than doubled, depending on if you're in Eversource or National Grid territory. Unitil as well has seen some pretty high rates as well. Essentially, a lot of it has to do with just how the electricity is being produced by these utilities. They pass along their costs to you, and when their costs go up, your costs go up. So solar gives you an opportunity to produce your own energy and not be tied to whatever the utility is paying for its electricity. Additionally, there are a lot of lucrative incentives available for solar installation. The main one being, which many people have heard of, the 30% federal tax credit. Whatever the cost of your system is, the whole project, 30% is off on the taxes of whatever year you install your solar project on. Additionally, Massachusetts and some states have different tax incentives or rebates depending on your territory. Massachusetts has a $1,000 tax credit. New Hampshire currently doesn't have any rebates, but they have in the past, and they come and go. There are additional upfront, depending on your territory and your utility, rebates that will help you cut off a significant portion of the cost of your project. Net metering is something that you'll hear a lot about in solar, and it varies state by state. But essentially, the idea of net metering is when you produce excess power, as most solar systems produce more power during the day than at night, when you're not home, maybe you're not using that power, that electricity gets exported out to the grid. And the benefit of net metering is your meter on your house actually will spin backwards, and you will be credited essentially full retail rate on that. And in months like June, July, August, when the sun is very strong, you produce more energy than you consume, and those credits roll over month to month. So we can size your system to match your annual consumption. And even if the power isn't necessarily consumed when it's produced, it will allow you to offset future bills. And that's a huge benefit that not every state has, but both Massachusetts and New Hampshire have. Additionally, there are various performance-based incentives that come and go. The most recent one in Massachusetts was the SMART program. What that does is if your electricity is worth 20 cents or something like that per kilowatt hour, they'll tack on an additional 3 to 5 cents. So you're getting a little boost on all of your solar production because you're an early adopter, because you're producing solar power. A lot of users are also interested in battery storage. Battery storage gives you energy independence. It allows you to have power when the grid goes down. As I explained with net metering, you get full retail rate for energy that you export to the grid. So batteries don't necessarily have a financial benefit at this moment in time, the way the financial structure of solar is set up. However, they will allow you to have power when the grid goes down, which is important to a lot of people. And finally, there's a lot of people interested in the environmental impact here. We're clearly climate change is a big thing going on. Going solar is helping to mitigate that. You're taking control of your own energy source. It's renewable. These systems last for 25 plus years. It's just a nice thing to have on your house, and taking control of your own energy. So going into the Own My Solar platform. So this whole process that I'm now going to go into is just describing how you can register an account through the MIT Federal Credit Union Own My Solar platform, and how easy it is to get a design, get quotes, move forward with a solar project if it makes sense for you. So when you first reach the website, which is mitfcu.ownmysolar.com, you'll reach a general homepage that has just all sorts of information about solar. It will tell you how solar panels work. It will tell you about the basic financing behind it, the benefits of having a solar system, how we design it, how we install, all different types of things. And registering on an account is very easy. All that we need is your address, your electricity bill, and any details that you would be interested in saying, like, I only want solar on my back roof, or the satellite imagery shows a big tree in my front yard that has since been removed, or I'm interested in either the highest efficiency panels, or as aesthetics are important to me. Whatever details you have in your mind about your solar system, those will help us create an ideal system for your situation. And once you give us that information, we go ahead and within 24 hours, we create what's called a light speed estimate. And these are some examples of the models of your home that we are able to produce. We use what's called Aurora Solar. It's a software online that allows you to produce, it's a combination of satellite imagery and LiDAR data, which gives you elevation readings of everything. And it lets us produce really accurate 3D models of your home. So you can see in this image right here, this is kind of a model of one of our customers' homes. We're able to put panels in a certain area. The software itself runs a simulation of the sun path across the sky for every day of the year. And in doing so, it gives you what's called an irradiance map. And that's on these two right here. The brighter colors show areas that receive more sunlight than others. So you can see a value of 1500 here, 1400 here, 1250 over there, 1070 over here. Generally speaking, southern facing roofs, because we're in the northern hemisphere, the sun travels across the sky to the south of us, will receive the best sunlight. If you have a full southern exposure, 35-degree tilt, that is like your ideal roof face. However, that's not to say that east and west exposure don't also receive pretty good sunlight. So if we're thinking that this is southern exposed, this is probably eastern exposed, we're still getting pretty solid sunlight here. And essentially, the software allows us to decide, okay, this is an area that would be a good place to put a solar panel or not. And generally, the cutoff is about 1,000 kilowatt hours per square meter per year of sun. We go into kind of in-depth analysis saying, like, for instance, in this bottom right image, if this person wanted to go solar, you can see there's a higher amount of shading on the southwest corner of the roof due to the trees in the area. So we would give you details on, if you want to go solar, you should remove these trees. Or if you don't remove these trees, we can only place panels on this portion of the roof. Things, little details like that, that you evaluate what is the best option for you. The light speed estimate itself goes into, it gives you a full snapshot of what your solar potential is. And now pricing can change from the light speed estimate, but the original light speed estimate is based on state average pricing. So it's going to give you details on, your solar system, your roof can fit a 7.2 kW design, which consists of 18 panels. It produces a certain amount of energy that would then offset 71% of your energy, or whatever the case may be for your home. It will show you what happens to your electricity bill on a monthly basis. As we can see, kind of April through June, there's no bill. In this case, probably August, July, August, they start using a lot of air conditioning or something, the bill jumps back up. But anytime this is the difference between bills. Sorry, I'm misquoting this, but you'll essentially be able to see what happens to your financial situation by going solar. It gives you also details on the cost, the financing through the MIT Federal Credit Union loan, any incentives that you're eligible for, and what your overall savings would be over the lifetime of the system. It's really going to give you an idea, is this something that's worthwhile to me based on the cost, based on what I would save, and based on how it looks, but based on the environmental impact. Not going into too much detail on this right now, but there are very significant warranties on all solar systems. Most solar products have a 25-year warranty. The panels have 25-year warranties. Inverters have between 10 to 25-year warranties, depending on the brand. Additionally, your installer will have what's called a workmanship warranty, meaning if they cause any damage to your roof during the installation, they are obligated to come back and fix it. So a lot of people are worried about the impact of these systems in terms of, will there be a leak in my roof? All of that stuff is covered. For the most part, these are very simple ideas. There are no moving parts. You're putting something on your roof. It actually protects the shingles on your roof because it's reducing the amount of sunlight on them. So there's not necessarily a high risk in going solar. You're putting a static product up there that's just producing energy for your usage. The next part of this process is an interesting portion. So when we give you that initial estimate, it's based on state average pricing. And we say, you have a 7 kW design. In general, solar is broken down into cost per watt. So 7 kW is equal to 7,000 watts. And normal price or something like that might be $3.50 per watt. And we put that price on your estimate. But then once you request bids, we have a pool of local installers around the area, and they are all interested in these projects. A large portion of installer cost comes from customer acquisition. But in this case, we're providing them with someone who's interested in solar already. They probably have done a good amount of research. They already kind of know what's going on. They also already have a lending institution behind them that's willing to give them a loan. So this is a high quality lead to them, and they're willing to give better prices than they may be to someone who they're just, meeting off a phone call or off the street. So you can request bids, and these local installers, which have all been vetted, they've all been checked out by our company, will come in and they'll bid on your project. And over time, generally it runs till 5 p.m. of the end of the next day. You'll be able to see your price come down and see what your final price could be, depending on who you want to work with. Additionally, behind all of that, we have what's called the true price, which Nate will get a little bit more into on the next slide. But the true price is essentially, if you are not interested in any of the installers and you just want to work with us, we have a price that we will match no matter what. And Nate will go more into detail on that. And lastly, though, the results of the auction, you're going to get 3 installers, 3 options to work with. They're all, like I said, highly vetted, highly qualified installers that we've worked with for a long time. And you can schedule a visit with one of them. You could schedule a visit with none of them. There's no obligation up to this point. It's just to get an idea of what your solar could cost. And from there, you can decide, I would love to work with the New England Patriots. Like, let's move forward with this. So I'll turn it over to you, Nate.
Sweet. Thanks, Matthew. Hey, everyone. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Nate Howard. I work alongside Matthew at NRG Tree, mainly in the project management engineering department. And I just want to give a little background of why we came up with Own My Solar. We found back in the day, if a homeowner was interested in going solar, what you might want to do is, like Google solar installers near me, and then you reach out to your local solar installer and you get a quote. Then probably the next smart thing to do is to cross compare, maybe get another quote or another handful of quotes from other installers. And Matthew touched on this a little bit, but it starts to get very confusing for homeowners. And maybe some of you in the meeting have already gone through this, where it just gets so confusing because there's so much noise going on. You have 3, 4, or 5 different quotes, and they're all quoting you different panels, different microinverters, and probably most confusing is different system size. So you're left in a position where you're not even really sure what size system you need and exactly what comes with it. So that's when we set out to create Own My Solar, with the idea of giving homeowners the true price for their system. So Matthew and I, when you go through the Own My Solar process, it comes directly to either one of us. And that's when we take a look at your utility bill. We create a 3D model of your home and basically give you the most optimal system for your home. We're going to size the system to meet exactly what you need based on your consumption. And we're only going to use the best portions of your roof. That way, if you have maybe quotes from outside of Own My Solar and the system size is larger than what we've given you, that installer is doubling the system size. Like, at least for this picture I have here up on the screen, the system size could be doubled if you put panels on the other side of the roof. But in Matthew and I's analysis, we take into consideration that tree shading he talked about, the roof orientation, the tilt, as well as your utility bill. So we're only going to give you a system that is best for your needs, and we're not going to put panels in areas that are inefficient. Also, we're standardizing equipment. The equipment that will be included in our preliminary proposal is some of the highest tier quality panels on the market. They're fully black. We've been in the industry for long enough to know that we've selected a handful of panels that match the aesthetic side of things that a lot of homeowners want to see. They're full black on black panel, as well as the microinverters, which we use a very well-known manufacturer in the industry. They're called Enphase. That is what will be coming in your proposal. So I just wanted to mention that as sort of the use Own My Solar, the preliminary quote that you get from us, as a benchmark to compare to any other quote you've received before. And we'll have our contact information on the last slide, but I urge you, if you have your phone, just take a photo of Matthew and I's phone number at the top right here. At the Own My stage in Own My Solar, where we give you your light speed estimate, it's either, like I said, it's either Matthew or I that's designed it. So if you have any questions why we put panels where we did, why we chose the system size that we did, again, we feel it's the most optimal for you, and we want to make sure you know why we're providing that system size for you. So feel free to give us a call at any time once you've gotten the preliminary quote from us. So next slide. Yep, thanks, Matthew. So once you do submit it and you get your light speed estimate, Matthew showed a couple photos or screenshots from the light speed estimate, but you also get another page here that'll have like a financial breakdown. It'll have the preliminary price, as Matthew stated, based on average local pricing, and we'll also model MIT's loan terms as well, so you kind of have a rough idea of what you're looking at. And again, once you get that light speed estimate, this is preliminary. You have the option to start the bidding process and have other installers come in and give you their pricing for that standardized equipment that I was just talking about. So at this point, once you've received a light speed estimate, feel free to reach out to the MIT loan department. Ben, I'm sure, is very willing to help. So at that point, feel free to reach out to MIT if you want to run the auction, see what the other installers are bidding at, and then maybe have a conversation or two with any of them and choose one. Again, yeah, feel free to reach out to MIT and talk through their loan financing options. So basically, so as I mentioned, I'm on the project management side with Energy Tree, but the process is pretty standard across a lot of installers. So once you do go through the process, you've talked with MIT, there's a financing option that is suitable for you, you've selected an installer that you'd like, that's when really the real life things start to take place. One of the first things we do is scheduling a site visit. That's where a technician will come to your home. The site visits don't normally take too long. They're about 20 or 30 minutes. What they'll do is go into your attic, take measurements of all your rafters, photos, also most likely your main service panels in your basement. They'll just need access to come take a look at your main service panel. And what they're doing is just making sure that they can honor that quote that they had given you in the bidding process, making sure that there's no structural upgrades that would be needed to host the weight of the solar, or any electrical upgrades that would be needed to interconnect behind your meter. It's very rare that system sizes for residential homes will require structural electrical upgrades, but it's just one of the preliminary investigations that we do before starting the process. If everything looks good from the site visit, what the installer will do next is draft engineering documents, sort of in the bottom right of this slide we have up here. It'll look something like this. They'll take that engineering document and they'll go to your utility and apply for interconnection approval. Basically, all solar installations anywhere have to go to the utility and basically tell them, this is the system size that we're looking to interconnect here. And the utility varies, but they take roughly 3 to 4 weeks to get back and tell you that, yes, you can install that system size there. At the same time, again, they're also submitting the structural information to their engineers and making sure that the roof is suitable to host the solar. Next slide, please. Sweet. So once you do hear back from the utility, or at any point during the time you're waiting to hear back from the utility, your installer is also applying for permits with your town. That's building and electrical permits, as well as mobilizing all of the equipment for the actual install. And basically, it's those two check marks. Once you have building electrical permits from the town and approval from the utility, you can work with your installer to set up a time to begin installation. It's about a month or so, call it a month and a half of build up to the actual install, and the installed timeline really isn't that long. For most residential size systems, 2 to 3 days a week max for some of the larger systems to do a full install. And then you're just waiting for the town to do their final inspections. Once the town approves the final inspection, or once the town okays the system during the final inspection, that's when you go back to the utility and you basically tell them, we installed the system in accordance with the approval you'd given us a couple months back. The utility okays that and gives you permission to turn the system on. And basically, once the system's turned on, everything will be set up. At least the equipment that's provided in our preliminary proposal is very smart. It hooks up right to your home's Wi-Fi connection, and you're able to monitor your system's production right from your phone, laptop, tablet. So that's probably one of the coolest parts about the early days of installing, is getting to come in and check in the production and consumption inside the portal. So I just have a little blurb there. I know I threw out some timelines, but typically, at least on the energy tree development side, we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 4 months from that first initial site visit to actually turning the system on and seeing clean power. So,
thank you, Nate. So just one more time to recap kind of the whole process. The whole goal of Own My Solar is to make going solar as easy as possible, as transparent as possible, and to get you the best pricing from high quality installers. So it's a very simple process. You just go to mitfcu.ownmysolar.com. You give us your electricity bill, your address. That's all we need. Within 24 hours, you'll have an estimate in front of you that can say, my home can fit X size system. It would offset this percentage of my usage and save me this much money for this cost. From there, you can request bids with local installers, see if that cost comes down a little bit, get a good installer from a local company. And from there, you can say, I looked this company up, I want to work with them. I looked this company up, I don't want to work with them, whatever it may be. Finally, you have MIT FCU behind you the whole way, and they can provide financing because solar systems are an expensive addition to your home. And finally, it goes straight into installation and you start saving. I cannot emphasize enough, the earlier people that went solar got into the better incentive programs, and it's incredible how much money they're saving. My parents just got solar on their house last summer. They're absolutely loving it. If it seems like your home is somewhere you're going to be staying for the significant future, I cannot advise going solar enough, as long as your house is a good situation. And if it's not, we'll tell you, you don't have adequate sunlight on your roof. It just does not make sense for you. But thank you for taking the time. We'll now answer some questions about our presentation and anything you may have solar related.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That was definitely a great presentation. We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A. So I will say, we'll leave the contact information up there. If you're interested in, applying for the loan, you certainly can do that. I would say the best thing to do is to start, with the Own My Solar program, and go through there and do the process. But let's start with the questions. So first question I have is the Own My Solar program directly linked to loans, or does it give information on multiple possibilities for my house? So I think that question is it linked to the loan department here at MIT? And the answer to that is yes. But I don't know if Matt and Nate, if you interpret that a different way, or if you want to.
No, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
MIT FCU will have oversight of the customers coming through, and it's just kind of to have your back and give you options as to how you want to finance the system.
Yep. All right. The second question is, what happens if my roof ages out halfway through the solar lifetime? Example, should I install panels on my 10 to 20-year-old roof, or wait until it's replaced?
Good question. So generally speaking, you want to replace the shingles on your roof prior to installing solar. And I say shingles as that's most New England rooftops. There are other cases as well. Standing seam metal is one of the best possible situations for solar, because you can just clamp directly onto the seams. But generally speaking, you want to replace the roof in advance. And that's something that during the site visit, an installer will take a look at the quality of your roof and say, how old is this? We're seeing some damage. We should replace this in advance.
Okay. Next question. Is there a warranty on the panels?
Yes. So there is multiple warranties. There's a product warranty if there are any physical defects in the panel itself. And there's also something called a production warranty. So production warranty essentially guarantees that a panel will operate at 98 to 99% of its rated power in year one, with something like a 0.5 or 0.7% degradation year over year. So with all the monitoring that comes along with solar that allows you to track down to a panel by panel basis, if one panel is significantly performing worse than the others, you will be able to tell, and you would be able to work with your installer to get it replaced with a non-faulty panel. However, I'll say one small note on that. The failure rate on these things is absolutely minuscule. When things go wrong in solar, it's almost always an issue with the inverter. The panels themselves, like I said, don't really have any moving parts, and the manufacturing processes are very standardized. So generally speaking, we don't see those issues.
All right. So the next question is, what kind of money would we need to put up front for a solar loan? So I can take part of that. So we do up to, the solar loans that we do here at the credit union can go up to $50,000. So depending on how much the installation would cost, would depend on how much money you would want to put down. And I'll let Matt and Nate talk about what kind of the average cost is on a solar project.
So the smaller size projects in the range of 5 kilowatts or something like that, you're seeing somewhere around low $20,000. Normal project, I would say average number is just 30K, but some of the larger get up closer to 40. So a $50,000 loan would cover everything. That being said, obviously, the more you put down up front, the less your loan payments are, and so on.
Yep, absolutely. Next question is, where can I find out more about the government incentives?
Great question. So you can do it obviously through your own research. Those incentives that you would be eligible for will be shown on the estimate once you sign up. And they are also written up on the website itself, mitfcu.ownmysolar.com. There is an incentives page that's you can easily navigate to within the website. But the main one, like I said, the main one you're going to want to look up is the 30% federal tax credit. That is by far the biggest one. In Massachusetts and in New Hampshire, the other ones you would want to look up are the SMART program and SREX. And once again, this is why Nate and I are here. If you have any questions specifically about this, we are happy to get on a quick phone call, explain them, etc.
All right. The next question is, what happens if I need to change my roof? Would MIT help finance this as a package? So the question is, I would think is do you help with the replacement of a roof if that needs to happen as well?
So we have roofing partners. Yes. This is a little bit of a tricky question. So I think the technical phrase is I have to say, I'm not a tax expert. You have to ask your accountant or something like that. But there have been projects in the past where the re-roofing has been worked into the overall scope of solar and therefore was eligible for the federal tax credit. There are also cases where it was done separately and it wasn't. So it can be worked into the solar project. It's just a little tricky on the mechanics.
Okay. And if it was worked into the solar product, we would help finance that. We also would work with you if it was a separate project to maybe do a personal loan, or we offer, a number of different types of loans that we could help you. So MIT would definitely help you. The credit union would help you try to figure that out. And I know that Matt and Nate would as well. Next question is, do the panels need to be cleaned regularly? If so, does it require a specialist? And what does the maintenance schedule look like?
Good question. Generally speaking, no, not at all. For the most part, residential homes have tilted roofs. The panels themselves have a glass surface that's pretty slick. So anytime it rains, they're going to be cleaned themselves. Sometimes pollen, dust, things like that do collect. That if you're noticing a significant decrease in production, you could clean it yourself. Either you could just spray it with a hose. You could, if you can reach it with a long pole with a kind of a broom or mop on the end, you could do that as well. Although you don't want to damage it if you don't want to be hitting them really. But for the most part, no, most people don't clean the panels at all. There will sometimes be a downtick in production during the winter if they are snow covered. Though one thing about them is snow generally comes off them way faster because it can't adhere to them as well as your shingle roof. So generally speaking, there is no maintenance. There is the monitoring to check if something does go wrong, in which case a technician would come out to help out.
Okay. Next question. Can you go over the install process again? If I was to do this, would I be up and running by June or July?
Nate, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can take that. That's a good question. So generally speaking, if we were to move forward next week or the week after, we can certainly have the system installed in the next 2 to 3 months. We can't commit to anything just because it really is dependent on the utility. I know at least for Eversource East Territory, they've been telling us, to expect a 3 to 4 week delay on the bidirectional meter. So if you're looking to net meter, what happens is the utility comes in once they review your claim, they come out and they install a bidirectional meter for net metering. And there's a supply chain issue on those, at least for Eversource East. So I just mentioned that because it'll be mainly heavily dependent on the utility, but at least Energy Tree speaking, substantial completion by end of June is certainly possible.
Great. The next question is, what is the vetting process like for your contractors?
Good question. So we do a lot of reviews. Well, there's basically 2 portions to it. One is just through the personal network that we have built, reaching out, learning more and more about installers, what have the best reputation in the market, talking with them, But we also do significant reviews of their Better Business Bureau reviews, their Google reviews, et cetera. And the benefit of having the Own My Solar program, beyond the initial vetting process, making sure that these are quality companies working on your home, is also that they kind of have someone looking over their shoulder. So they know they can't screw you over because we are behind them, kind of being like, you told them you're going to offer them this price, you have to follow through with that. So if anything that an installer says to you is a little bit seems out of the ordinary, you can always bring it back to us and we can double check it for you, essentially. But essentially, it's mainly reading through various reviews, talking to our various partners. We've been in this industry now since, like I said, 2015. In the 8 years, we've gotten a good idea of what are the quality companies around the various states in New England, and that's who we work with. We generally aim for kind of the medium-sized companies. The larger national companies can sometimes offer better prices, but they don't always have the quality of work because you're just one project of a million to them. Versus the really small companies sometimes can get overwhelmed and they can't necessarily handle all of the issues. So the medium local companies is really who we try to work with.
Great. Couple more questions. Do users of Own My Solar have to finance it, or is it possible to pay upfront?
You can pay upfront. Yeah, if you can afford the system, you're more than welcome to pay as much as you'd like.
Next question is, what's the percentage on the loan and for how many years? So it's 5.75% for 84 months. We are flexible in that term. If you need to do a little bit of a longer term, then we certainly can look at that with you on a case-by-case basis. The next question is, should I be worried about snow falling off the panels? And can you talk a little bit more about that?
That is a good question. So there are things that can be installed called snow guards, which kind of hold it from doing so. But yes, there are cases where if it's installed kind of over your front door or something like that, there can be a big sheet of snow that comes off all at once. I guess I don't know the exact answer to this question. It is a thing that can happen. We have not experienced any of our customers having an issue where, they were standing there and they got a bunch of snow dumped on them. For the most part, like I said, the panels are pretty slick, so snow would slide off before a significant amount built up to the point where it would necessarily be dangerous.
Great. The next question is, are there different options for the types of panels that could be used?
Yes. So generally speaking, as Nate mentioned back on this slide, we work with, they're called Q-cell 400 watt black on black panels, meaning the surface of the panel is a sleek black mirror-like appearance, and then the framing of it is black as well. That's viewed as a pretty high-end panel towards the top of the market. There are also panels that can be subbed in that are a little bit cheaper, but not necessarily at the highest efficiency. And they also, sometimes you'll see kind of on older solar arrays, it's more of like a blue looking panel where you can see the individual cells. It's cut into 60 or 72 individual cells. So there is variety of panels that are available. Each installer will have a couple different options, kind of their top of the line option, their middle option, and their lower tier options, depending on what your interests on the system are. Like if it's on your back roof, you don't care what it looks like, something can be subbed in, definitely.
All right. Is a battery installed to store the energy from the panels?
So that is something that can be added on, yes. There are different size batteries depending on how much power you want for your baseline loads. Most people install batteries just to keep what they call emergency systems, keep your fridge running, keep your heat running, whatever it may be. The battery is not part of the initial quote of the project. That is something that can be added on. And as I said, batteries, their main purpose is to provide power when the grid goes down. There is not necessarily a financial benefit to batteries. There are programs to try to make them less costly, but It is a big financial investment, but like I said, if having power when the grid goes down is important to you, then it's definitely something worth considering.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That is all the questions that we have at the moment. This has certainly been an eye-opening webinar. I think we got a lot of questions answered. Hopefully folks in the participants got a lot out of it.